spoke of that speech.
Please welcome Gary to the microphone.
I want you to all imagine for a moment you're turning 65 this year. You've had the one job since 1962. You're regarded as a living legend. You have a lifestyle that is envied by many, many millions around the world. You have a logo that is almost as symptomatic or as recognised as the Coca-Cola logo, that embodies your spirit, your life and your contribution to the world. It would be fair to say that your life has given you and many others a great deal of satisfaction. Mr. Toastmaster, ladies and gentlemen, tonight I'm going to discuss with you and share with you some musings on who I consider is a living legend, Mr. Mick Jagger. To help guide you through my speech, I'm going to talk a little about his early life. I'm then going to move on to his time with the great Rolling Stones, and then share with you a bit about his personal life. Mick, unlike many rock stars, Elvis comes to mind, had a very normal upbringing. He didn't live in a dirt poor environment. I believe he grew up in Kent in England. Quite interestingly, his mother was an Australian immigrant, so his mother's an Australian. He had no formal music training, which seems to be quite a pattern amongst the celebrated musos of the world, just like Lennon and McCartney. He can't read or write music, so I share that with him. I wouldn't be able to point out a treble clef from a crotchet, and apparently neither can Mick Jagger. He described his early life as being one in which he always enjoyed singing. At an early age of about 19, he met a fellow devotee and fan of rhythm and blues music, and that was, of course, Mr. Keith Richard. They shared a love for rhythm and blues music and found that they had a unique ability to write and record songs and music, and developed a brilliant band called the Rolling Stones way back in 1962. And in 1964 they were voted Britain's most popular band. So here we are, nearly 44 years ago, gone, and they're still going strong. I used the word satisfaction earlier, and of course it's appropriate being about a member of the Rolling Stones, but think for a moment, if you would, that you have an idea, and with that idea you collaborate, you put some music to it, you then add a chorus, you add a theme, all about this idea, about this perception you have on life. And then, from that idea, it becomes an anthem. And the Rolling Stones and Mick Jagger have been, in my opinion, responsible for some of the best anthems of our era. Honky Tonk Woman, Give Me Shelter, You Can't Always Get What You Want, Satisfaction, the list goes on and on. And I believe that that would indeed, to borrow a phrase, give someone a great deal of satisfaction to think, out of my mind came this thing that now people applaud and recognise instantly. The Rolling Stones and Mick Jagger picked up a few awards on their travels. They've got Grammy Lifetime Awards, American Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they can't help but tour, and during that time earn hundreds of millions of dollars in the process, both in album and touring sales. Look, it's fairly simplistic to say, and it might be a reflection on myself, but that's the sort of life that I think many would envy, to be so well rewarded for your endeavours. I don't want to try and be too serious about it, but of course it only is rock and roll, but for the level of satisfaction to be still doing what you love and do so well 40 years on, I think is terrific. I've been fortunate enough to see them in concert twice. I describe it as being the best concerts I've ever been to. Mick Jagger was the ultimate showman. I would sum up his performance as I saw it live as being full of bravado, ego, and the consummate professional. He was without a doubt the greatest showman I've ever seen, and it was indeed brilliant. Of course, he's got I'll just move on from the Rolling Stones period to a bit about his personal life. One need only read the women's magazines to get a bit of an insight into that. He certainly has had a high profile and exuberant lifestyle on and off stage. He's had multiple relationships. Amongst them have been with Mary Ann Faithfull in the early 60s through to the 70s. He then moved on to Jerry Hall, with whom he had several women and children. And in total he has 7 children and 4 it's not great-grandchildren, 4 grandchildren, so good on him. Well done. If there's one man that can afford to keep all those mouths fed, I think it is Mick Jagger, due to the royalties of the terrific songs that he's penned and starred in. In December 2003, he received a knighthood for his services to music. And in fact, he was the first musician that people believe actually got his knighthood only through music, because no other musical knight, every other musical knight, sorry, I should say, has received it for their generosity and contribution to charities. Mick, on the record, doesn't seem to have done any of that. Receiving the knighthood, he received resentment from other members of the band, amongst them his long-time nemesis, at times friend, Keith Richards. And it's a quote from probably my favourite Stones song, A Sympathy for the Devil, that if Mick was here today, I think he'd stand up here and say, "Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste." I think if he was to sum up his life, it'd be that. He's a huge cricket fan, and for his reputation for having an eye for the ladies, I could imagine him with a night out with a local leg spinning hero having a ball of a time. So that's my brief synopsis on Mick Jagger. He's a member of the Rolling Stones. They're not trying to cure cancer, they're not trying to get land on Mars or do anything like that. But in my opinion, he and them have contributed greatly to modern society. After all, I know it's only rock and roll, but I like it. Thank you.